Hello friends and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live every Saturday from 10 AM direct to Facebook and available later on catch-up via youtube.com/gamertagged. I hope everybody is having a great morning and I am joined once again by an incredibly special guest. It is Community Manager of SEGA Europe, Ibrahim Bhatti. Welcome.
Thank you. My God, that was what an intro, and I'm so humbled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me,
mate. This has been a long time coming, because we were chatting during the pre-roll there about how we've never actually spoken face to face or even voice to voice before. It's always been over Facebook Messenger.
We also missed each other at EGX as well. Like the only time you ever come down to Birmingham or London or whatever, and I miss you completely because it's such a big show.
It is. I mean, yeah. I think the last time we went to EGX as a group, it was probably 2 years ago, maybe. And I was scouring the Sega booth, trying to hunt for you. I couldn't see because you're so busy and you're so in demand. Yeah, and then the previous time when you, in your previous life at 2K, it was the big Mafia 3 stand and that 1960s theatre which they had set up at Eurogamer.
Yeah.
And I was there. I was like, where's Ibs? I just couldn't see you. I could never get hold of you because you're too popular. You're too in demand.
Well, thank you to COVID and circumstances, we're able to do this now, which is great. Once again, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I can see this amazing Streets of Rage t-shirt on. We're going to get into Streets of Rage 4 because that was such a surprise and such a joy when that came out this year. But for the benefit of our viewers, could you give everybody a bit of an overview as to who you are, what you do at SEGA, and your kind of gaming history, or just a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go as deep as you want me to. So I'm Ibs. I'm the community manager of SEGA Europe. I work at the publishing side of Sega. So a lot of you might not know how Sega is structured. So you've got the Sega company, and then you've got the studios, which we internally call pillars. So we've got Sports Interactive, Amplitude, Creative Assembly. We've got Relic. And most recently acquired 2 Point Studios, who made 2 Point Hospital.
2 Point Hospital, of
course. And essentially, all those studios have their own internal community teams as well. But I work centrally with each of these pillars, so I kind of help with like the digital strategy as well as community strategy, and help wherever we, using Sega's big name to help get their games build their audiences and help, for example, a studio like 2 Point, when they're starting fresh, we use Sega's big social media account following. We're like, for example, on Twitter and Facebook, we've got 1.7 and 1.8 million followers globally. So we use that audience to try and bring people into those brands separately. And, to find a crossover wherever possible. For example, it's not easy with Football Manager fans to be interested in strategy games, but there are sometimes an overlap. But essentially, and before that, I was, as you mentioned, I was at 2K. I was a community manager at 2K for the international side, again, publishing side. All about 2K, all the studios were internal. So it was I mainly worked on, as you mentioned, the Mafia brand and WWE. Previously, I worked on the Firaxis stuff like Civilization and XCOM as well. I was there for about 4 years. And prior to that, I was agency side, working at a digital agency called Crash London, where I was looking after the social media accounts for Capcom. So I worked on the launch of Darkstalkers Resurrection, Resident Evil 6, it was 6, and Revelations. Worked on Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and a few other games as well, some smaller ones.
Yeah.
And before that, I was at PlayStation. Not a lot of notable things that I worked on there. I mean, MotorStorm Apocalypse. I was a moderator at PlayStation, so that involved dealing with grief reporting and moderating the forums and looking after one section of the gaming community, which was driving games. So I worked on MotorStorm Apocalypse, Little Big Planet, racing, karting, and what was the other one? It was Gran Turismo 7, Modern Nation Racers, a few others as well, and third-party ones as well.
So grief reporting, that must be an easy job.
Let's just say, and I think I'm allowed to say it. We would moderate user-generated content, and that would range from Little Big Planet levels, which were the most interesting, to SingStar videos. You know, when you upload a video of you
Got you.
singing.
Okay, yeah.
We had to look. You know, we had to look for anything that was offensive because again, like Toy Pet and a Little Big Planet, they're
Yeah.
kids games, right? So you have to be very careful in protecting kids. So we had a big team of us who you would basically go through constantly all day long, just go through group reporting. And Little Big Planet, there was a fair share of male genitalia
Of course.
levels being made, but other than that, it wasn't really that bad. We never had any extreme cases. We had this whole policy in place for anything that was really deemed too graphic.
Hmm.
Fortunately, you know, the PlayStation community aren't that bad when it comes to creating questionable
Yeah.
levels, as it
I'm
were.
sure Mario Maker audiences had their hands full with a similar
Oh yeah,
endeavor, you know?
I mean, when we a few of former Sony colleagues of mine, when we heard about what was the game that came out for PlayStation VR from Media Molecule that you
Dreams?
can Dreams. When
Yeah,
we heard
sure.
about that, we saw the E3 announcement. We were like, this is amazing, but I feel
Yeah.
sorry for whoever's moderating this.
Yeah, yeah, their team, their crack team of moderators to try and vet and approve and filter out all of the imaginative creations, shall we say? Yeah. Oh my goodness, my goodness.
And prior to doing that at Sony, I was actually at Sega, so I've come full circle. I started my career in the games industry as a games tester at Sega, and I spent 4 years there. Prior to that, because I didn't even study anything remotely related to gaming, I studied contemporary media practice, which was video production and
Hmm.
film and TV and video and photography, basically. But it's like a fancy way of saying it. I did that. I did a degree in that, and I went to Australia for a year to work in a small production studio, very small public access cable TV. So if you imagine Wayne's World, but run by like 30 people, that's basically how I explain it. And then eventually the company ran out of money, and then I had a choice, like to search for work in Australia or come back. I decided to come back. A whole bunch of us friends went out there, and we were like, no, it's time to come home.
Yeah.
And one of the first jobs I looked for prior to that, I was working at CEX for 4 years. While I was at uni, I was working at CEX. So that was my claim to fame in the games industry in the
Yeah.
beginning. I went to I was looking for work because Australia being a completely different ball game to the
Mm.
UK. If I wanted to work in the media industry, I'd have to start as a runner again, which it's
Ah,
fine if you're fresh out of university, because you've got to make tea and do all the mundane
sure,
tasks and.
sure.
And I didn't want to do that, so I looked for other work. And I saw a job at Sega for a games tester. You know what? I'll do that. And I did that and stayed there for 4 years. And here I am coming full circle working at Sega again.
Yeah, you came home at Sega.
Yeah, and it was a different company back then because the whole pillar system I explained earlier, that wasn't there. That time Sega was really heavy on releasing everything on Nintendo platforms, on the
Yeah,
Wii and DS especially.
yeah.
You could release Pong on the Wii and it would do well. You know what I mean? So I mean, not saying that Sega made trash games, but you could make some trash games on the Wii.
Yeah, and
And
still
and, and
sell.
same with, I mean, do you remember a time right at the end of the PS2's game cycle where they would come out with some, like, generally you'd see some really questionable games on the PS2, like
Yeah,
like equivalent of mobile games really being released on the PS2. It was great.
well, we've kind of came full circle with that as well because sometimes I do question what is hitting like the Nintendo Switch store, the sheer gulf of things, which is great for creators to just get like their creation out
It's
there.
good,
It is
especially
great
for
for that,
indies.
but my goodness, you just think like how on earth do you quality control any of this, or should you quality control it, and how do you filter? Like, how does the cream rise, kind of thing, other than word of mouth? But it feels
Yeah.
like every day there's like a huge dump of games hitting that store, and you think, I don't even know what I'm supposed to click on here. It's like, what is like, how do we curate this kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, PlayStation. So in game development, one thing I learned from working at Sega as well is all the platform holders, so Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they have their own checklist like their own internal checklist, right?
Okay.
And every game has to abide by those rules. If it doesn't abide by those rules, it doesn't pass. Now, in the days of the PS2, Sony were the most strict.
Okay.
And what it meant was, like if you save a game on a PS2, you'll see a message pop up and it says saving to memory card 1 in memory card slot 1, right?
Yeah.
Now it's ingrained in my mind now because memory card slot has to be all uppercase.
Oh, case sensitive. Okay, yeah.
And these messages, we would create these messages ourselves, and and we'd have like an Excel text file with all the messages, and we'd have to check them, cross-reference them.
Oh my God,
every language as well, like in FIGs as well, French, Italian, German, Spanish. We'd have to do that as well for certain games. If those were wrong, you get a point. Like you get like and it would be like for Sony at the time. I don't know how it works now, because PS4 is a completely different thing. But you'd have like a point system, and back then, if you had 26 points or more than 26 points, you'd fail. And an A-class bug, like a crash or something like that, would be a 6 points. A B-class bug would be 3, and a C-class would be 1. C could be like a glitch that happens.
Okay,
that's marked as a C. But and with back then on the PS2, in the days of there were no day one patches, right? So
what you got was what you got. That was it.
That's it. You had to make everything perfect, otherwise you have to resubmit it, and it cost the company money. Blah blah blah. And then that we were there during that change because, like, we were really stressing out over all this stuff, because the original Xbox and the 360, the way the Microsoft made the console, is that you didn't have to create your own messages. The console did it for you. The console had generic built-in messages that would just display. You just throw your UI on top of it, and that's it. Hey presto. Whereas PlayStation and PS2 and PSP, you had to come up with these messages yourself, and it was really difficult to make sure everything was perfect. I'm ashamed to admit that Yakuza 2 on the PS2 came out a bit late because of me.
You're responsible.
I'm actually responsible for the delay. It wasn't that long a delay. It was like 2 weeks, but I messed up royally and I got chewed for it.
But if you're an Xbox user, you've been delayed for years waiting to get your hands on Yakuza.
Yes, which we will get onto. Yes, that's true. That's true. But yeah, and then when the PS3 came along, they saw, Microsoft are doing this, let's do the same. And the PS3 had generated messages from the console, so it was fine. But yeah, it was a fun time because I got to work on the launch of the PS3 because I specialized in PlayStation. As a platform, which is what led me to getting the job at Sony as well. Because it was it's a completely different career change from going in quality assurance to working in community/customer services. So
sure.
It was a massive transition, but I got the pleasure of working on the launch titles like Virtua Fighter, Sonic 06,
Virtua Fighter,
Virtua Tennis, and then a whole bunch of games after that, like Condemned 2. Condemned 1 was the first game I ever worked on.
That's the one I'm thinking of, where it's Criminal Origins, right? It's the first person, you're like a forensic analyst. I loved that game. It was so hugely underrated, and first person melee combat done really, really well. And with the investigation stuff, brilliant. I'd love to see that series come back in some guise, but maybe we can live in hope and dream.
There was this whole thing with Condemned because that was at a time where Sega was publishing for different studios, and Warner Brothers didn't have their own game studio. For example, it was at the time where Arkham Asylum. It was
back in 2008-9.
It was nothing to do with Warner Brothers back then. It was a DC game published by Eidos. And then when Arkham City came along, that's when Warner Brothers Studios or Warner Brothers Games started to exist, and that's where they sold the IP to Warner Brothers. And the good interesting thing with Condemned, it was part of the contract at the time with Sega, where they'd previously done the Matrix Online. Sega actually worked on that.
Yep.
And it was part of a deal, and Condemned was supposed to be a movie tie-in. There was actually supposed to be a movie of Condemned.
Oh wow!
and special time with the movie about the same character and set in that whole universe,
You know
like
what?
a cinematic
That's
universe.
really interesting that you say that, because when first time I played Condemned, I always thought it was like that Denzel Washington movie, The Bone Collector.
Yes,
I
yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
I always thought that was like a really good kind of connection. Like that's what the game was trying to maybe like emulate or
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
give that
yeah.
interactive version of that movie. So
Yeah,
that's really cool that you say that, because I can see it. I can see it being like a movie tie-in, but done really really well.
yeah.
Like usually when we get a game that's tied into a movie, they're always like horrible, but that was
I
fantastic.
again ashamed to admit. I mean, we at Sega at the time, they had the Marvel license, so I worked on Iron Man. I worked on Iron Man 2.
Wow.
I worked on Golden Compass, which wasn't Disney, but that was another one that for
Sure.
a film that flopped. The Incredible Hulk game, the open world one, that was fun to
That
work
was
on.
good though. That was like a really
Yeah,
good example of like the Hulk done really really
I
well.
mean, even the Iron Man games they weren't garbage, but I worked on the PS2 versions, which were very toned down and not yeah, they weren't the best versions to work on, and they obviously didn't sell that well. And then I left, and then they made the Thor and Captain America one. The Captain America one was a God of War clone, I think. It was like a,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was the time of 3D. Do you remember that era in 2010 about 3D? That was amazing, wasn't it?
Totally. That was
Yeah.
where God of War had kind of set a template for the third person action game, and then we started to
Yeah.
get a lot of clones coming out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Conan. Do you remember Conan?
Oh
That
yeah.
was the one
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
a clone, but because it again, like imitation is the best form of flattery, because it
Yeah.
was like God of War and it was great. It was a cheap cash in, but it worked. I
Yeah.
finished that
Yeah.
Conan game. It was great.
Do you remember
Yeah,
Dante's Inferno as well? That was like very much a
I
straight
loved.
lift. Yeah.
That was the start of the controversy, was because of the male nudity, wasn't it? I think the
Yes. Yeah.
ending had the character naked. That was a good game. Dante's Inferno was really good. Really
Underrated, yeah.
horrific vision of the levels of hell, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I can't like even fathom what that game world could look like with the new technology coming out
Can you
today.
imagine?
Oh my goodness.
You say that, but then we've got games like Agony, which was which was a bit too graphic.
Yeah. I think I lasted maybe half an hour trying to play that game. I thought, nope, I can't. I can't.
Yo,
The imagery there is.
kudos for that, and kudos for Deep Silver for publishing that game, because that's like a
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really horrific game to play. I mean, again, it's a vision of hell, so you want to go as far as you can, don't you?
Totally, totally. So
Yeah.
2020 has really kicked the ass out of everybody with COVID and everything kind of going on in the world. How has that affected not just your day to day, but Sega in general? Because this year was like the 60th anniversary of Sega, and I was super hyped when I first kind of didn't realize that it was the 60th anniversary. First of all, but when I did, I started exploring like book releases that were coming out to kind of really trumpet this such a great legacy for a company. But also that must have had a huge impact on like events and everything that you had planned going throughout the whole year.
Absolutely. I mean, so it's a really good point. I mean, business wise, we're extremely lucky. I mean, I'm sure Sean told you this when he was on. We're lucky. We're in a digital age where we're relying on, we can do everything digitally.
Yeah.
We don't have to physically be in the office to ship a game. You just need to manage the logistics differently, and that's for the physical side. And the digital side, the only downside is, when we've got all these studios making games, they have to do it from home now.
Yeah.
But again, luckily, if you've got the hardware, if you supply the people with the right hardware, and the work-life balance,
Yeah.
work continues. But when you go to the event side, I mean, we had to cancel E3, we had to cancel Gamescom, we had to cancel. Well, they got cancelled. We didn't have to cancel them, but we had to cancel. We had plans in place.
Like suppliers as well, like gearing up to create like the booths and everything. And,
yeah. And I know. This it's amazing that the industry has managed to work around that with the digital E3 and digital shows that have been happening. But yeah, it's been a difficult time. But again, we're lucky. Like I'm sure you've seen like previews of Ubisoft had previews of Assassin's Creed, and CD Projekt had previews of Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And we had previews of our upcoming Total War Troy game. And the reason people are able to do that is because we're able to allow people to actually stream the games from their home. They can play the game through software.
That kind of blew my mind. The first, I think, time I really heard of that being done was actually on the recent Cyberpunk previews that were coming out, and they were saying that they basically just like streamed them over like a high end PC in one location to their like whole own systems. I thought, damn, that's incredibly powerful. And
have you heard of Parsec?
No,
I've heard of. It's done.
Oh, okay. I mean, a friend of mine. Okay, sorry, on you go.
No. You go on.
No, I was going to say that a friend of mine put me in contact with a company called Shadowtech, which is kind of doing the same thing. It's like you rent a high end PC to your specification,
and it's over the network.
Over the network. So he gave me his login and stuff to test out. So I jumped into his Steam library, which is in this computer in Amsterdam. And I'm basically accessing it like a remote desktop with no latency or anything, and I can play games on my Mac essentially, but it's actually via Shadowtech on a PC, hundreds of miles away, potentially thousands of miles away. It's wild.
Parsec, take that concept, but Parsec allows you to cast and allow people to use your own PC. So you're talking about a network. You're talking about like a cloud-based PC, right? That's a server somewhere that you're using to access, and that's an entire PC that you can use with Shadow. With Parsec, I can say, right, example, all the Sega streams that we've been doing, we've had at least 2 to 4 people on our stream. We've all been connecting. Everyone's been connecting to my PC, and we've been playing a game on my PC, but they're all using their own controllers with no lag.
Okay, wow.
Absolutely, it's crazy. So, and going back to Streets of Rage 4, online, using the online mode, you can only play 2-player.
Okay.
But offline, you can play 4-player.
Okay. So you do the same setup or system to get like online, quote unquote online, but for 4 players. Yeah.
So we streamed Streets of Rage 4-player mode, and people were asking in the chat, like, how are you playing 4-player? We're explaining this piece of software. It's free. You download it. The host basically allows people to connect to their PC, and it literally just gives them controller 2, controller 3, controller 4. You can have up to 20 people connecting at once.
Jesus! So you could have like a local old school LAN party sort of setup, but very virtually kind of thing. It's
even better. You can do watch parties for movies.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's
wild.
People use it, so you know, because what you're doing is you're sharing your screen and your sound, and there's no lag. There's absolutely no lag.
Yeah.
Depending on your connection and your client's connection, but I think when we had about 6 people connecting once, it started getting a bit ropey. But when there's 2 to 3 people, that's for playing. There was lag for playing. But if you're doing like a presentation or something, or you know you're doing a watch party, like I said, watching a movie or something.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. What you should do, I think, try it with try it with a gaming night because everyone's got, because of COVID. Try it with one of your gamer tag nights. Try and get a few. You've got your regular mates that you play with. Try a couch co-op game on the PC using that. See how it works. It's amazing. But try it for the next for Gamescom, if they do the Summer Game Fest. Do a live watch party on there where you're all talking to each other. It's amazing.
Wow!
It's like you're all in the same room.
It's crazy. It's crazy what technology is giving us, and
we're lucky in this.
Yeah, man. I mean, do you think that because of this lockdown, it's maybe like forced the hand of a lot of these like platforms and technologies to get out there, like to advance way faster than what we probably were expecting?
Absolutely, because the way it's looking is COVID is going to be around for a very long time. We're not anywhere near to finding a vaccine or anything like that. We just have to, we've rode the first wave. We don't know if and when there will be a second wave, and even going back to work. We were talking about earlier about going back to work. Going back to the office. Yeah. Every company has their own policy. But the picture you can see formed is that it's never going to go back to what it was.
Sure.
We're not going to go in the foreseeable future. No office is going to go back to the same amount of people being in the same room at the same time, especially for open plan offices, which Sega has. Sega has an open plan office, and we have to be very careful in terms of social distancing and keeping those who are vulnerable. I suffer from diabetes, so I'm at risk. So I when everyone eventually does return to the office, Sega, again, we've got one of the best HR departments I've ever seen, where they're like, when the government decides everyone's going back to the office, you don't feel like you have to go back. You continue to work from home. When you're ready, you come back. And so some of us are lucky in that sense, but unlike my wife who works in the retail sector, she's at work right now.
Yeah, she's non-stop. There's never been a furlough or a work from home kind of. Yeah,
no. Some companies unfortunately can't afford to close and can't afford to, you can't sell things from home. So it's a difficult situation. So I think as a country, as a world, we're going to be in this for a long time. So yes, I think it is forcing their hand. I mean, we're lucky going back to that point of being able to give press previews of games in that way, where they can actually play the game, not just watch a video. Because we were talking about internally, how, because Yakuza Like a Dragon, it's the new game in the series. It's a complete change up in the way the game works. It came out in Japan already, but with the game works, with the turn-based combat, etc. It's difficult. It's so difficult to actually let people,
you need to play it. You need to kind of get your hands on it and feel it and see what it's like. Yeah.
I mean, they were at the first they were throwing around the idea of let's just create some pre-canned footage and let the journalists watch that video. It's like, that doesn't do it. Because it's an RPG. Every RPG is a personal experience. You're making those decisions, so you're not going to they're not going to have the same impact. It's like asking someone to watch Final Fantasy rather than playing it. You know what I mean? It's not the same.
It's almost the equivalent of having an opinion about a video game on the internet without having played through it yourself. Ibs. People never do that, right? No. Why would they ever do that? Yeah. So
yeah, good question.
So
Eric is in the chat asking, do you think things will be forever changed? Yes, but to the extent I don't know. I don't think everyone will be in lockdown forever or anything like that. I think when we all return to the offices again, dev studios, they all work so tightly knit together, and it's so difficult for them to do that. Whether you're an indie or a AAA, you're working remotely. It makes it even more difficult when you're working on a game. So, and I was watching the fighting game roundtable last night, and I'm a massive Tekken fan. I only stayed up for Tekken, but I ended up watching the whole thing. And Harada was talking about, they revealed season 4 for the DLC plan. They showed a little bit of the tease for their roadmap. And he said after he showed the trailer, he was like, they wanted season 4 to be released yesterday, as it finished and ready, like start with the first character and the balance changes. But they said because of COVID, the dev team are working from home and it's much harder, so they're delaying it, and it's impacted everyone. So
but I mean, you mentioned like the fighting game scene in general. They've had to cancel their tournaments because it's all about the player opposite you or side by side. There's a physical presence to be able to compete in esports. So the long-term impact for things like that, let alone making people comfortable enough to actually travel to a big event, or whether it's music, whether it's a football game or a big gaming convention, the long-term effect is going to be substantial. And in terms of those esports, that's not something that you can do remotely at all. So we just don't know what that is going to mean for the 2021 seasons or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's affected. I don't know if you saw the news about Konami with Pro Evolution Soccer. They're not releasing another game this year. They're just doing an internal update to the game. So PES 20 is going to have an update with the rosters and everything, rather than a new. So there's no PES 2021, is what I'm saying. They're updating the game,
man, that's interesting.
Which is like, again, if it's a game like Halo Infinite where that's your plan, that's fine.
That's the platform to then add and update content. Sure.
It's the term game. It seems like a dirty word at the moment, but it's not. It's the games as a service thing, right? It's so, you know, you release, they say, oh, this is going to be the last Halo they release, but that doesn't mean it's the end of Halo. It just means everything is self-contained within that one thing.
Yeah,
So,
because they mentioned everybody immediately thought like a Destiny or a Division, but what they kind of meant is more like a Master Chief Collection, where it's a package. It's like the framework, the foundation, where you just add to it. I mean, I've been streaming the Master Chief Collection again recently, and it does genuinely boggle my mind as to that package, everything that is contained in it. It's like all of those games, all of those multiplayers, and then you can break it down by like playlists or like game types and everything. And it's like, no wonder it was such a huge endeavor. And if they're trying to do something like that with Infinite, like long term over the next 10, 15 years, however long it will be, it's incredibly exciting. And I wonder what impact that is going to maybe have for other developers, other IPs that are thinking, actually, you know what, we have this really rich universe, whether it's like the Witcher universe or it's the Cyberpunk universe or the Division universe, but to invest in a huge platform that you don't necessarily have to have a boxed sale or a digital download sale every year, every 2 years, whatever it is. And then you just kind of get people invested in these worlds. Like, I mean, it's the ultimate goal of like the Ready Player One like fantasy world, right? Where you never have to leave. It's you just whatever you want to be within these worlds. So it's incredibly exciting, but also really just interesting as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, and going back to that, when you mentioned that, because one of the things I loved about last night's fighting game roundtable is you had the developers from all the different studios. You had Capcom, Namco, SNK, Arc System Works, all of them on this one roundtable, digital roundtable, where they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it was amazing seeing them come together in this one live stream they were sharing on their own channels, but they were all complimenting each other. When SNK announced something coming to Samurai Showdown, everyone clapped at the end. All the other developers were complimenting each other. And it's so good to see that kind of collaboration between them.
It's the way it should be, right? It's like the betterment of the industry rather than some kind of like competition standoff. Like you want another person to fail so you can do better, or this kind of mentality. It's all about how can we uplift like everything for the betterment of the communities, the games, the technology, like everything. It's so wonderful to see that.
Did you see our announcement on Thursday with our partnership with EA?
I missed that. But this is your platform now to tell us all about it.
So Sonic Mania is now available on EA Origin. So we're using their digital store for our games.
That's cool.
Again, no one would see that coming, right? I've been on email chains with people from EA for work. It's so weird. But, we're discussing Sonic. We're discussing Sonic on emails with EA. It's like, this is mind-boggling. But we're working together to bring our games to another platform for people who only use,
and that's amazing. And Sonic Mania in itself is an amazing return for Sonic, for that 2D 16-bit era of Sonic. So Sonic's had a big year, actually, like a really big year. And the movie came out a couple months ago. It came to digital purchase early because of COVID and everything like that. And I gotta say, hats off to not just Sega but the team, the film team, the production team behind that, because I don't think anybody, maybe fair to say, that was expecting much from a Sonic movie, especially because of all of the backlash that they were getting between like the styling of Sonic and everything like that, which was crazy. But anyway, we won't get into that. But honestly, I loved that movie.
It was good.
I thought it was so fun, and the humor in it was really great. It was so on point. Jim Carrey's always great, as hamming it up as Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman, and I just thought it was just really, really well done. It was a great story. All the touches, the little like flourishes and nods and Easter eggs and everything like that. I thought it was brilliant. Just really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we watched it as a company. We went on the day of release as a company to watch it, and we were like, this is a perfect combination of, it's one of those, the best films, the best Disney films, for example, are the ones that are made for kids, but they're made, there's references that adults will get as well.
There's stuff in there for olders, yeah.
So it's and Jeff Fowler, he's a great director. He took it on board when when the first one was unveiled, and there was a backlash. Although internally we do joke that we want someone to do a deep fake version of the film where they use the original design just as a laugh. I would love to see that.
I'm sure somebody's probably already on it. Yeah, totally. Can you imagine? Yeah. It's funny because everybody was crying out about like the original design of Sonic, and but the 16-bit one that I kind of associate with Sonic is he has like a mono eye. He's like a Cyclops, like with just like a brow. It's like if you were to. It's weird. You could you can't. I don't think you could actually do that, like for like a live action interpretation of Sonic, or maybe you could. I don't really know. But anyway, everything came out smelling of roses in the end, and it was a great film, a great tie-in as well. It's certainly up there with for me like Dr. Pikachu, Detective Pikachu, with just such a great. More of those, please, would be amazing. And that kind of caliber of movie.
Sequel's confirmed. They've got a release date for the second film now, April 2022. Wow. So it's coming.
Fantastic! I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome, man. So, can we talk a little bit about Yakuza Like a Dragon? We mentioned it just earlier there, but it's coming out in, I think it's December. It's slated for. Is that correct?
We haven't given a release date yet. No.
I'm obviously speculating based on store listings and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because we've confirmed it's a launch title for the Series X. So obviously we can't just we can't just say, oh yeah, it's this date, because then they'll go, right, well, it's clearly the Xbox Series X is coming out.
Yeah, you've just
Microsoft
outed
have our heads exactly. So and it's coming to PlayStation 5 as well, but not straight away. It will come a little while later. Again, because of issues with COVID, it's not been easy to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's for PC games as well. It's a big thing because the Yakuza games came out late for PC. This game is coming out day and date on PC as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
They get to jump straight in. Only downside is Yakuza 3, 4, 5, and 6 are not on PC yet. And we haven't got any news to share about that, whether it is coming or not, or when. But yeah.
Yakuza Kiwami just hit Game Pass, I believe, as well. Kiwami 2. Kiwami 2, yeah. And that's it's amazing to see that they have finally come to Xbox as well. But to get just speaking as a PlayStation fan and Yakuza fan, to see the whole collection of games basically getting remastered and as like delivered as a package. I mean, I can only imagine what an endeavor that must have been as well for the teams in Japan and everything to get that done.
So yeah, I mean, so funny, yeah, because the PC versions were different, because that was, you have to present a business case for these games to come out on different platforms. Like Yakuza has been a PlayStation game since the PS2, all the way up to I think Yakuza 2 they came out. So Yakuza 1 and 2 were PS2. 3, 4, and 5 were PS3, and then 6 was 6 and 0 were PS4, and Judgment as well was PS4, and then they did the remaster 3, 4, and 5 on PS4 as well. And it's synonymous with the brand of PlayStation, especially in Japan. PlayStation have been PlayStation have been like partnered with Sega in Japan to release it on the PlayStation, and seeing it come to PC, it was always requested on PC, but when it finally in 2018 did come to PC with Zero, it blew everyone's minds. Even if you look on Twitch now, if you look on Twitch and you look up Yakuza 0 is still the most streamed Yakuza game on Twitch at the moment, any given day.
Wow.
Because people are playing that as their first game and they're getting into the series. You fall in love with the characters. Yeah. It's amazing. So that to come to Xbox, we didn't, at first we were like, oh, it's probably not going to happen. We're always telling the community no plans to bring it on Xbox. So then it did. We've got Zero, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 now on Xbox.
Yeah.
And not only that is, I think what helps is, we were circling around this point before, is Xbox Game Pass as a service is incredible.
Yes.
The value proposition for Game Pass, you pay a monthly subscription and you've got games on your PC or your Xbox, one or the other or both. You pay a little bit more for both.
Yeah.
And the fact that 2 Point Hospital, with games like 2 Point Hospital and Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 2, they come out on Game Pass, you don't have to worry about, selling the game, because people are able to just go straight away, download it day one.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love. One of the things I love about, and it wasn't talked enough about afterwards with the recent Microsoft presentation is, if you think about it, that presentation wasn't for the Series X. That presentation was for Game Pass.
Yeah.
Because all those games were Game Pass.
Yeah.
And all of those games, day one, like, you don't have to pre-order Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
You can if you want to, if you want the physical one, but if you want to play the game day and date, you literally, as soon as it's released, you download it on your Xbox. Yeah. You don't have to pay anything extra.
It's the Xbox as a platform now, and we actually had a good conversation about that on last week's episode about the cost of buying or getting into new hardware is usually quite expensive. I mean, we speculated to say, okay, just for argument's sake, if the consoles were coming out at, say, £500 for like the all singing, all dancing version with the optical drives and everything like that, whatever the other editions are, we obviously don't know that, but just say £500 for that edition, and then you've typically got like an extra controller, and then maybe you want to buy a couple of games with it as well. So you're looking at maybe £600, £700 to upgrade to the new generation of hardware. Well, Xbox have just said, yeah, you don't even have to do that, man. If you've saved up for the hardware, you've already got over 100 brand new games all coming to Game Pass immediately to play on this new shiny new piece of tech that you've just invested in. You don't have to buy X number of games and then spend way more money than that. And I love that as a concept. And it was mind-blowing to think that Microsoft, as a $1 trillion company, are saying, yeah, you can just have all this stuff for $10 a month or $15 a month, whatever it is. And the fact that they're reframing, they're reshaping the Xbox platform for that model is phenomenal, like truly phenomenal. And the fact that they're now including xCloud in there, as to one complete service is quite staggering and exciting to see.
It is, and if you told me in 2013 when the Xbox One came out that they were going to do the service like Netflix where you pay a monthly subscription, and if you told me that, or you told me about the digital edition Xbox One, I'd laugh you all the way out. I'd be like, no, that's not going to happen, but it is. And that's it. It leads me to another thing as well, is how, PC as a platform is taken much more seriously now. Like you've got Horizon Zero Dawn, you got Death Stranding, and what was it called? Detroit Become Human. Being accessible to PC gamers. You're like,
that's huge.
If it was if the console and crossplay still blows my mind. Whenever I'm playing Call of Duty, every time it makes me smile to see Xbox and PlayStation and PC in the same lobby.
Yeah, well,
it's crazy.
I mean, we've still got some teething issues with PC gamers coming into the console lobbies and stuff like that. But the times that you've joined us on your PC, in fact, you play with a gamepad rather than like a mouse and keyboard. It's getting that balance right between unfair advantage versus just wanting to play with your friends on another platform.
But the option is there to turn off crossplay, or you can turn off mouse and keyboard. So you can only join games, so it's a level playing field. Because everyone knows anyone using a mouse and keyboard is going to dominate on that game. So, I mean, at least with Halo, for example, it's the aiming is a lot slower than Call of Duty for Halo, so it's an even playing field more so there. But But again, cosplay, like, with and it's happening so much. And again, blowing my mind, Cuphead and Microsoft Game Studios release on Switch and PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is kind of mind-blowing that exclusive game for Cuphead. I mean, it was huge when it came to Switch originally. Was it last year, maybe the year before? And then that was kind of the speculation to say, oh, is this like a partnership with Microsoft and Nintendo? Are we going to see like Game Pass coming to the Switch or anything like that? And then Cuphead coming to PS4, it's like, damn, they're actually just getting their games out on as many platforms as possible, and it's just a benefit for the gamer entirely, regardless of the platform that they wish to choose. And it's exciting stuff, man. Exciting stuff. Yeah. So, is there anything that you want to mention, chat about, say, have thoughts on before we maybe wrap up the show?
Yeah, you were talking about Streets of Rage 4. We need to talk about that, how amazing that game is. We need
Yeah.
to just
Oh, goodness.
so again, a lot of people get confused. They always congratulate Sega for Streets of Rage 4 being an amazing game. It's not actually because of us. It actually is an indie game. It was made by Lizard Cube and published by Emu, and it also Guard Crush Games as well, helped with the online aspect as well. It's their baby. Like, whenever people ask us, oh, when is an update for Streets of Rage 4 coming out with DLC and stuff, we're like, ask.emu. It's their game. It's a Sega IP, but these guys took it and ran with it, and
Yeah.
Sega gave it their blessing. They gave them their blessing and said, here you go. Don't ruin this. Make the best you can out of it. I mean, obviously they must have seen a tech demo. I think when we spoke to .emu, they were saying how they went to Sega Japan and they presented the game there, and Sega Japan were like, "Wow, this is amazing. Yes, let's do it." Same with Forever Entertainment when they made Panzer Dragoon for the Switch as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing that these studios are able to get in with a company like Sega and release stuff. Make games passionate. Because if you've played, anyone who's played Streets of Rage 4 will see that it's a love letter from fans to Sega. It's got the essence of Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 in there, but it feels like a natural progression with the combo system and the point system to gamify it a bit more. Not to use that term.
I was just going to say, is you can see the reverence for the source material and the legacy of these 16-bit era, Sega IPs, and I think I can imagine that if a studio wants to approach Sega with doing something interesting with an older IP to try and revive it, I think to come out and be so passionate and have such reverence for the source material, I would like to hope goes a long way for Sega to be saying, okay, we're kind of open to like what you're wanting to do with an IP.
I would go as far as saying that's already happening. Again, with Forever Entertainment, it happened. And the recent announcement of Alex Kidd and Miracle World DX, that's another external studio, an indie studio making a game. It was a passion project, and they took it to Sega, and it happened. Sonic Mania, you have Christian Whitehead who made. So Christian Whitehead is the person who ported Sonic to mobile. He made the mobile versions. He made Sonic CD as well, the PS3 and Xbox 360 version of Sonic CD. Using his own programming, and made not remade them, but like ported them over to current gen at the time.
Yeah,
it's happening. It's happening a lot. So it's a wonderful time where indie developers are being shown, given this, they're taking the Sega pedigree and making their own stuff and shining. Yeah. So it's great.
It's awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. And if anybody in the chat hasn't seen it, go check out the Digital Foundry analysis of Streets of Rage 4. It's a phenomenal breakdown of the way in which like the levels and the art is all laid out and layered and constructed, and you hear directly from some of the developers as well. It's a wonderful video, and yeah, it's such a great comeback for that game as well. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be a wrap up for our show today. This has been the Weekend Catch Up Club, the Coffee Morning Show, brought to you live, of course, to Facebook and available later on youtube.com/gamertag. I want to say again a massive thank you to not just everybody who has been tuning in and chatting and giving their thoughts and opinions and stuff. It's been awesome to see that reaction there, that community engagement, but also, of course, to Mr. Ibrahim Bhatti of Sega Europe for giving us his time, getting up early to join us, because the man was up late watching some fighting game coverage, and it's just been awesome to chat to you, sir. So again, thank you very much.
Again, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Anytime you want to reach out and have a chat, I'm always happy to. This has gone so quick. It felt like 5 minutes ago we started.
I know, right?
And thank you for those of you tuning in as well. If you guys have any questions, I think I'm on the gamer tag group. If you guys have any questions, do reach out in there. And I hope all of you stay safe and look after yourselves. But yeah, thanks again, Ross.
No worries, buddy. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.